Hello, Seattle. I'm Jonathan Reckford, CEO of Habitat for Humanity International. Glad to be with you virtually for this celebration. Congratulations on 35 years of building homes, communities, and hope with families all across Seattle, King County. If you're like me, you were a huge Wizard of Oz fan when you were young, and it was a big deal when it came on every year. And I remember from the safety of my home each year, that so important tagline, there's no place like home. And I think this year, as we've all experienced COVID, has reinforced that. Very likely, if you're watching this, you're one of the people for whom staying at home was an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe. But for so many in our country and around the world, this past year has reinforced how difficult life is if you have no adequate shelter in which to shelter in place. So I hope as you come together to celebrate the great work that Seattle King County Habitat does, I pray that you will dig deep and help them do more, because we have the worst housing crisis in Seattle, but also in our country that we have ever seen. And the need for the safety, the stability, and the safe foundation of a decent home is something every family ought to have. So congratulations on what you have done. I wish you great urgency and excitement about what is still yet to be done. And as you celebrate together, I hope you will lay the foundation so that so many more families will know that there's no place like home. God bless.
Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon. We are coming to you live from downtown Seattle. It has been so inspiring to see so many families and supporters joining us today, and how Habitat for Humanity Seattle King County has had an impact on their lives. There are so many achievements over the past year, and indeed over the past 35 years, as Habitat celebrates its 35th anniversary. Congratulations. And I am honored to be here as your MC for today's Habitat second virtual Beyond the Build event. I'm Dave Wagner, evening news anchor for Cairo 7 News. I am certainly familiar with Habitat, work here locally, been out on the build site at Lake City, which was a wonderful opportunity and fun. I've also covered Habitat across the country as an anchor for other affiliates, and have had the honor to interview President Jimmy Carter about his involvement with this very important organization. We are grateful to have you here joining us today to support Habitat for Humanity and our shared commitment to building community and building hope as well. Before we dive into the incredible work and share some of the stories of those who've been impacted, I'd like to introduce you to Beth Chronister of University Unitarian Church to start things off with our invocation.
Spirit of life and love, God of many names and no name, we gather together from many disparate places as people, diverse in belief and understanding. We gather together during a time in which disparities in health and housing have become starkly clear, illuminated as brightly as our deep need for one another. We gather, called by our shared foundation, which is love. From this foundation, guide us in living more graciously, more gratefully, more generously. Help us to be sheltering walls for one another, protecting each other from life's precarity and sharing the warmth of compassion. We gather together to remind us of how we are all connected, inextricably, frighteningly, beautifully woven together. May this truth and your love bless us today and every day. Amen.
And thank you, Reverend, for your inspiring words. The perfect start to our program today. Now, with the outbreak of COVID-19, as well as the unfolding tragedies that we're seeing in our local communities and across the country, we are all looking for a way to respond, to help. We are seeing an impact on our region, and unlike anything that we have experienced before, really. And as every day passes, more resources are strained, creating even more barriers to those who need affordable housing. Our real estate market is seeing an unprecedented scarcity of homes, resulting in corresponding increase in home prices, very expensive right now, as well as scarcity in building materials like lumber, Those prices are rising significantly. Lumber right now is increasing Habitat's build costs by an average of $25,000 per home. And sadly, a new challenge that Seattle report shows homelessness has surged 42% annually in King County. This is just over the last 5 years, despite a 21% annual increase in funding for homeless services over that period of time. So the need, no doubt, is urgent. And today we ask you to remember that we're all on this journey together. And we want to help you do that as we discuss the importance of home today and how we've all gained a deeper appreciation of that over the past year. In fact, Governor Inslee has some thoughts to share on that.
Hi, Governor Jay Inslee here, and thanks for letting me join you. I'd like to share a few of my thoughts about Habitat for Humanity as you celebrate your 45th year and your 35th year working in Seattle and King County. We know that affordable home ownership is one of the foundations of the American dream, and without your effort, this would continue to be out of reach for so many Americans. Habitat for Humanity has built, rehabilitated, or repaired more than 800,000 homes internationally, and I suspect that number is above 1 million homes at this point. This foundational aspect of our society has so many benefits, from the obvious, keeping people safely housed, to increasing financial stability for our families. Your work has also increased civic and social engagement and improves health and education outcomes for our children. We know home rehabilitation repairs do more than reduce family expenses. They also help our state goals of reducing energy consumption and addressing climate impacts. At the core of your work is the ability of families to accumulate wealth through home ownership. This is how many Washingtonians improve health and education outcomes, as well as breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty. This is truly an equity initiative. Congratulations on the 35 years of work in your communities. Congratulations to President Carter for his work and all of your colleagues. Please keep it up.
All right, Governor, and thank you for your support today. We must do everything we can to keep on building homes and raising funds for struggling families right here in our community. So how do you and Habitat make sure that happens? That's the question. First, your gifts fund affordable home ownership. That's very important. There's more than just pride that comes from owning your own home. There are tangible and lasting benefits as well. Home ownership has proven to help families thrive, not just for today, but for generations to come. Data shows that kids do better in school, and they're also more likely to go on to college when their families own their own homes. Homeowners are healthier, both physically and mentally, than renters, and Habitat homeowners accumulate equity, an average of $80,000. Your support for Habitat also keeps people in the homes they've already owned through its home repair program. For every home that Habitat builds, they repair 3 or 4 more, enabling seniors and low-income families to remain in the homes and neighborhoods that they have loved for so many years. And while these times are challenging and those we support are even more stressed, there are many things we can do to celebrate today. You're going to hear how your support today over the past 35 years has impacted families, more about the aggressive goals that Habitat has going forward in our region, and how we can advocate and help those in our communities deal with the ending of local eviction moratoriums from our keynote speaker, Matthew Desmond. He's a remarkable guy. Stand by for him. We do have some special guests we'd like to recognize first, though. First, Habitat's corporate and foundation partners, the socially conscious, community-focused businesses who donate $25,000 or more each year to support Habitat's mission. Many thanks to our corporate partners at the platinum level, including Microsoft, Regions, Blueprint Capital, and Second Use. Along with our foundation partners, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Roma Foundation, Lenore Hanauer Foundation, the John C. and Carol K. Hughes Foundation, Joshua Green Foundation, and the Harnish Foundation. And at the gold level, Bank of America, CU Home Mortgage Solutions, co-owner by Verity Credit Union, and Harborstone Credit Union as well, BECU, Federal Home Loan Bank of Des Moines, Prime Electric, Home Street Bank, Faith Church, Mears Roofing, and Washington Mortgage Bankers Association. And our foundation partners, the Suskin Charitable Foundation and the Satterberg Foundation. Thanks to their generosity, every dollar you donate today, every dollar as part of our program will go directly toward building strength, stability, and self-reliance through affordable home ownership. And a very exciting opportunity has been generously offered to you this year by Delta Airlines. All those attending today's event in its entirety will be entered into a drawing for 2 Delta airline tickets anywhere they fly domestically. And we're going to announce the winner at the end of today's program, so stand by for that. Take a moment to thank all of these amazing organizations in the chat. We literally couldn't do our work without them. Thank you so much. Now, you have several ways to give throughout our program that will be frequently shown on your screen, and we thank you in advance for your support. And thanks to the generous gifts from an anonymous sponsor, Blueprint Capital and KLB Construction, every gift you make of $250 or more will be matched up to a total of $135,000. That's for our 35th anniversary. If you can make it $350 for the 35th anniversary, well, that's even better. Thank you, all you match donors. And a little more well-deserved recognition, Habitat's dedicated board of directors, hardworking staff, and AmeriCorps members. Make sure your donations are used efficiently and effectively to build and repair affordable homes. And last, but certainly not least, we are so appreciative of our table captains who invited many of you here today to ensure that we have a full online house of generous people here to support Habitat homeowners. And to all of you joining us from your homes, your offices as well, thank you for making the time to be here with us today. We really appreciate it. Everybody, give us a wave out there, okay? Hey there. Nice to see you. Also, a big shout out to our watch party comprised of our construction team and volunteers watching from our build site in Renton. Hope you're having a great day. Hope the weather's cooperating for you. Let's get on with the program. Please help me welcome CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Seattle-King County, Brett D'Antonio.
Thanks, Dave. We're so happy to have you as our MC this year, and we appreciate Cairo's continuing support. It's great to hear about your history with Habitat throughout the country as well, and we're grateful for your commitment. As Dave said, I'm Brett D'Antonio, CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Seattle-King County, and I can't thank you enough for joining us for our second virtual experience. I'm on site today at our South Park project, located just south of Georgetown, which broke ground in the fall of last year. It's an interesting project that's being constructed on 2 lots that previously housed 1 home, and when finished will consist of 13 2-bedroom units. This project is just one example of our continued efforts to innovate in order to serve more families than ever before, and reflects partnerships with both community organizations and private developers. In this case, the City of Seattle, the Duwamish Valley Affordable Housing Coalition, and Blueprint Capital. The project also has the distinction of being recognized with Habitat International's Best Innovative Design for its attention to sustainability and taking advantage of code updates to accessory dwelling units. South Park is one of 8 projects we have underway in Lake City, Renton, North and Central Seattle, North Bend, and Burien. Additionally, we have 2 more that will be coming on board soon, one in West Seattle and a second project on Capitol Hill. So not only are we on pace to achieve the ambitious 5-year agenda we set in late 2019, we are exceeding it with 200 units in development instead of the 150 we expected this time last year. I'm very proud of the perseverance of our development and construction teams, who in partnership with community organizations, developers, and volunteers have pushed forward during unprecedented times to address the dire need for affordable housing in King County. This need has only become more urgent in the face of job losses resulting from COVID, an increase in homelessness, and all of this amid one of the country's most expensive real estate markets. We know that homeownership is transformative and is the key to building strong, productive communities. And to this end, we've also ramped up our advocacy efforts related to affordable housing legislation in Washington state. These efforts are helping to ensure that the cost of home is more affordable, attainable, and equitable. Because beyond just a roof over a family's head, owning a home provides stable living, economic mobility, and opportunity to break generational poverty. Upwards of 95% of Habitat homeowners who sold their home used the equity to purchase on the open market. And through our land trust model, the Habitat homes that they sell were resold to new families in need of affordable housing. Our repairs program, which enables non-Habitat homeowners to stay in their homes, in many cases ensures the ability to build generational wealth when these homes are passed down. So by providing a hand up rather than a handout, we are strengthening our communities, benefiting us all in the process. Speaking of providing a hand up, I wanted to take a moment to recognize our Volunteer of the Year, Nancy Williams. For many years, Nancy's been the local leader for our annual Women Build Week in partnership with Lowe's. She's been instrumental in volunteer recruitment, event support, and even providing supplies to our build sites. In 2019, she recruited over 40 volunteers to join us at our Sammamish build site for a women build that raised $250,000 for our affiliate. This past fall, when Habitat was experiencing the full effects of COVID-19, Nancy helped host a virtual DIY event that taught valuable construction skills to women in our community and made sure our build sites were able to stay open for volunteers by connecting us with hard-to-find sanitation supplies and PPE. Thank you, Nancy, for everything you continue to do for Habitat, and congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. Before I pass off to Paul Bogle of Home Street Bank, I wanted to thank you again for joining us today and for your generosity. While we celebrate our affiliate's 35th year working to build self-reliance for deserving people throughout King County, as you'll hear today, there's also much more work to be done. Thanks to people like you, the incredible community members who believe in Habitat and donate your time, talent, and treasure to our mission, we know we can change even more lives. And now it's my honor to introduce Paul Bogle, Vice President of Construction Lending for Home Street Bank, who will be presenting Habitat's Community Leader of the Year Award. Home Street has been a longtime partner of Habitat and marks 100 years in business this year. The company's impact has been significant, and last year was named our Community Leader of the Year. We are truly, truly grateful. Paul?
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Bogle, Vice President of Construction Lending for Home Street Bank. As last year's recipient of Habitat's Community Partner of the Year Award, I am thrilled to present the 2021 award to the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish Counties, and specifically to my friend and colleague Todd Levitt, the organization's president. Home Street has been a member of Master Builders for more than 50 years, and Todd and I have worked together for many years in a variety of roles within the organization, including the Master Builders Board. In addition to its generous financial support for Habitat spanning 2 decades, the Community Leader of the Year honor recognizes Master Builders' critical response to COVID-19 via the development of a COVID-19 construction safety toolkit. This important initiative provided contractors with vital information to create and maintain safe working environments for all reopening phases in Washington State, and assured Habitat's critical construction continued with minimal disruption. So as you can see, Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish Counties has done much more than help to build homes. It has provided a brighter future for families and our entire community. Todd, thank you for your leadership and inspiring support. I am pleased to present you with this year's Habitat Seattle King County Community Partner of the Year Award.
Thank you, Paul, for your kind words. It's a privilege to share this virtual stage with Home Street Bank. And a huge heartfelt thank you to Habitat for Humanity of Seattle King County from all of us at the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish Counties for this tremendous award. As an association representing home builders across the Puget Sound region, MBAX is dedicated to expanding access to housing so everyone here can find a healthy and productive place to call home. And that's why we love working with Habitat for Humanity and supporting their mission to create a world where everyone has a decent place to live. Habitat houses families and helps make our communities second to none. Whether it's building and repairing homes for those who are in most need or engaging people where they live to improve our neighborhoods, the work you do is urgent and indispensable. And MBAX is so glad to remain a part of this important work. We have supported Habitat in a variety of ways over the years, whether with financial donations, supporting your wonderful events, volunteering time and resources, providing grants, and most recently, helping navigate the ins and outs of COVID-19. Providing any support we can to Habitat will remain a part of who we are here at MBAX and what we continue to strive for as a component of our overall mission. In a time when communities are struggling with the health and economic effects of the pandemic, we know the work you do is more important than ever. We want you to know that we have your back. Thank you so much for this Community Leader of the Year award and letting us be a part of your story.
My mom and dad gave me this home, and me and my daughter moved in here about 30 years ago. I was having problems with the deck, and then I was having problems with the roof, and then the house needed painting. It looked terrible. And every time I vacuum, because I have allergies, I'd have to sit down and cough. I'd be coughing, I'd be sneezing. My allergies, my eyes was running, and I'm saying, oh my God, I gotta get rid of this. There was a lot of repairs that I had to have done. And I checked around with different people, and I couldn't afford it. I'm on a fixed income, and I'm older, I'm 76 years old. I got a hold of Habitat to come out and check out my house to see the repairs I needed to get done. And then I was approved. They did the roof first, then they came out and then they painted the house. They put new gutters on the house, and then they put the trim on the house. Then they painted the gates. They put down new wood on the deck. They did the overhead on the deck. I mean, it's beautiful. They took up the old carpet and they put down laminated floors in the living room, the dining room, and the hallway. I was gonna sell it if I hadn't got the repairs done. I didn't want to, but I said if I have to, that's what I would do, because I knew I couldn't afford to get none of the work done on the house. I feel safe in my home, and it's all remodeled like a brand new home to me, and I thank God for Habitat. I'm really happy with what they did, really happy. I could go on and on with that.
I've been volunteering for Habitat for about 20 years. I was a pastor when I retired, but I realized that I could not just go home and sit. I needed something to do. I was going to do this for a year and see what happened, and I never looked back. I just kept going. What I observed about people getting a home through Habitat for Humanity is they were believing that they could never own a home. And then Habitat for Humanity came along and showed them a path where it could be possible. When they finally were able to receive the keys to their home was just overwhelming. There were tears and everything, you know, they just couldn't believe it. This isn't a handout, it's, as some people call it, a hand up. And I'm excited about that kind of a program.
My mother escaped the civil war in Somalia and came into the city of Seattle in 1992 with just the clothes on her back and a couple of personal items. And my dad came in 1994, and he came from Kenya.
So Abdi's 28, I'm 25. Then we have a younger brother, Ahmed, he is 24. Then we have another brother named Yusuf, he's 22, and Abdul's 20. And then our youngest sister, Fahima, she's 14.
My mother moved to Rainier Beach area when she first moved to Seattle, and she lived with her 3 sisters, my uncle, my cousin, and they lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. We got pretty much shifted out of the house because my little brother was born and there's too many people in the apartment. And then we moved to a house. The rent was hiking up, and my parents wanted a house that they could say there's theirs.
My dad ran a restaurant in Rainier. My mom worked at night, and she used to come in the mornings and make us breakfast and send us off to school. And then she would spend the day with my dad and help him run their business.
Somebody came in talking about Habitat Humanity. She took that initiative and was like, I'm gonna go figure out what this person is talking about and if I can benefit my family. My parents took pride in it, and that's why my parents brought us to the site to show us all the hard work people are putting into giving us a home. My mom was a firm believer in not getting anything handed to you, so getting up and making everybody food and making sure everybody was happy that had tea, and her actually doing her part into the build, including my dad, was like a sense of pride.
I remember how happy my parents looked. It was such a huge deal for them. Now that we're older and we've remodeled and that we've been here for almost 20 years, it hits you. It's oh wow, this is such a huge accomplishment. Now we can see the pride and the excitement that they felt when we had moved here in 2003.
I believe that we would not be as successful because I've seen multiple friends of mine that just move school to school, neighborhood to neighborhood, and never get the chance to be a kid. And I got lucky enough and very fortunate to live in the same house for 18 years,
Boy, that is really inspiring, isn't it? We appreciate all of you sharing your stories with us today. I'd like to introduce you to someone here, Matthew Desmond, who I was fortunate enough to interview for Cairo 7 News. He is a fascinating guy. Matthew is the winner of the 2017 Pulitzer Prize for General Nonfiction, the 2017 Penn John Kenneth Galbraith Award, and the 2016 National Book Critics Circle Award for his book, Evicted: Poverty and Profit in the American City. He is a sociologist as well at Princeton and a 2015 MacArthur Fellow whose research is showing the impact of eviction on poor families and the role of housing policy in sustaining poverty and racial inequality in large American cities. A very relevant, very important topic for today's program. Matthew.
Thanks, Dave. It's a real honor to be here with you. I have so much affinity for Habitat for Humanity. The work you're doing in Seattle and King County is inspiring. It's necessary. I got involved with Habitat in college. I met my girlfriend there, and she became my wife. And so I have a debt to Habitat that's both personal but also political and from the heart. I wanted to talk today a little bit about housing in America and the eviction crisis. America is unique. We're the richest democracy with the worst poverty. There's no other country in the world that has the kind of poverty we have, the level of poverty that we have. And that's always troubled me. And I know it troubles so many of you. And I wanted to understand the role that housing plays in that story. And I thought that looking at eviction, looking at families physically, forcibly removed from their homes was a decent way of going about that. So I moved into a mobile home park on the south side of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I lived there for about 5 months. And then I moved into an inner city rooming house on the north side of the city. And I lived there for about 10 months. And from those two neighborhoods, I followed families getting evicted. I went everywhere with those families, went to eviction court with them, followed them into abandoned shelters, churches, their work, the kids' schools. But I also spent a lot of time with landlords doing the evicting, trying to figure out what makes them tick, what ticks them off, why they evicted this person and not that person. And this book is about this incredibly complicated and fraught relationship, but one that's essential if we want to understand a city like Seattle today, which is the relationship between landlords and tenants and what they can tell us about the American housing crisis. So I thought I'd take our time today to tell you one person's story and use her story as a window into what millions of Americans are facing today, and they faced before the COVID shutdown, and they're facing through it. And this is Arlene's story. So Arlene had a 14-year-old son named Jory, and one day he was cutting up, throwing snowballs at passing cars, and he smacked this car with a snowball, and it jerked to a stop, and this man jumped out. And so Jory ran inside, and he locked the door, but the man ran after him and kicked the door in and busted the door down. And thank God he left before anything else happened, but when Arlene's landlord found out about that, she decided to evict Arlene and her boys for damaging property. So Arlene took her two sons, Jory and Jafaris. Jafaris was 6, to the Salvation Army homeless shelter, which a lot of folks in Milwaukee just call the lodge. So you can tell your kids, like, we're staying at the lodge tonight, like it's a hotel. And from there, they were on the hunt for another place to live. They found a place on 19th Street, but there was no water, and Jory had to bucket out what was in the toilet. But Arlene told me, look, it was $525 for a whole house, and it was quiet. You know, we did surveys and collected a lot of statistical data about this problem too. And one thing we found when we dug into that data is that when families get evicted, they move into much worse housing than they lived in before. So if we want to know why some kids live with like lead paint, exposed wires, no heat, no water, one reason is that their families are forced to accept those kinds of conditions in the harried aftermath of an eviction. So the city eventually found that place on 9th Street unfit for human habitation. They boarded up the windows and the doors, and Arlene and the boys were on the hunt for another place to live. And so she told Jory, we'd take whatever we could get. And what Arlene could get was this drab apartment complex on Atkinson Avenue. But she soon learned it was a haven for drug dealers. In fact, the whole block was really drug-soaked and hot, and she feared for her boys, like any mother would. This is another pattern we see again and again in the data too. After people get evicted, they move from neighborhoods with fairly high levels of crime to even more dangerous blocks. They move from poor neighborhoods to even poorer ones. Eviction seems to push families deeper into disadvantage. Arlene moved out of that place as fast as she could. She found a 2-bedroom, bottom unit duplex right in the heart of Milwaukee's inner city, 13th Street and Keefe. There's a big old hole in the living room window. The carpet was just like filthy and ground in. The front door didn't have a lock on it, so Arlene learned to lock it with a plank she slid into brackets. But she put on a good face. You know, she stuffed a piece of cloth in that hole in the window and hung up ivory curtains. So the rent for that kind of place, which was located in a very poor neighborhood in Milwaukee, which was our 4th poorest city in America at the time, the rent was $550 a month, utilities not included, and that took 88% of Arlene's welfare check. And she knew that some months she would have to sell food stamps to get by, and the boys would eat oodles and noodles. You know, when you're spending over 88% of your income on rent, there's no extra money for anything, like clothes for Jory or toys for Jafaris. Jafaris had this brilliant ability to transform like a bucket or a mop or whatever he could get his hands on into soldiers and tanks engaged in warfare. So as you well know, Arlene is not alone in spending the vast majority of her income on housing costs. For about 100 years, there's been this consensus in America that we should spend 30% of our income on housing. That leaves enough money to save, buy enough food, invest in our kids. But most renting families below the poverty line look at that kind of consensus and say, there's never a way I'm going to reach that. So the percentage of poor renting families below the poverty line that are spending 30% or less of their income on housing costs have fallen drastically over the last 20 years. But the percent of those families that are spending at least 50% of their income or more on housing costs have gone up and up and up to the point that today, the majority of poor renting families spend at least 50% of their income on housing costs. And about 1 in 4 of those families spend over 70% of their income just on rent and utilities. 70% of your income is gone at the beginning of the month. If you want a roof over your head and hot water, under those conditions, you don't need to make a huge mistake to get evicted. Something as small as a snowball can do it. So for families like Arlene's, eviction is much more the result of inevitability than irresponsibility. How do we get here? How do we get to this depth of a housing crisis? There's 3 simple ingredients. You know, incomes for many Americans have been flat over the last 50 years. In many parts of the country, real wages have fallen, especially for folks without a college education. But as that was happening, housing costs were soaring. They soared all over the country. Yes, this is a Seattle story and a San Francisco story, but it's also a Milwaukee story and a Lincoln, Nebraska story and a Houston, Texas story. Median rents doubled in the last 20 years. So there's this closing gap between what many families are bringing in and what they have to pay for just basic shelter needs. And then we might say, well, wait a minute, where's the government here? What about public housing? What about housing vouchers? Don't they help? Yeah, they help. But there's not enough of them to go around. Only 1 in 6 families today who qualifies for any kind of housing assistance receives any help. And the vast majority receive nothing. And they're forced onto waiting lists. And the waiting list for public housing in some of our biggest cities like Seattle, like DC, like New York, those waiting lists are no longer counted in years anymore. They're counted in decades. So I have 2 young kids. If I applied for public housing today in Washington, DC, for example, there's a good chance that I'd be a grandfather by the time my application came up for review. So Arlene moved into her place on 13th Street in Keefe. It was going okay. You know, she found a bucket of paint and brushes in the basement, and she gave the walls a fresh coat. But not long after moving in, her sister died, and she pitched in for the funeral. You know, she didn't have the money, but no one else did either. The next month, she missed a payment because her welfare caseworker sent a notice about an appointment to another address. Maybe it was the 19th Street address or the one on Atkinson Avenue. And she got a sanction, they call it. And by that time, she fell 2 months behind in rent, and she got the pink papers. Milwaukee's a city about 105,000 renter homes. Landlords evict roughly 16,000 of those homes every single year. That's 1 in 14 renters evicted every year in the city of Milwaukee on the north side of that city. That's an incredible amount of instability. But then the question was, well, how weird is Milwaukee? This is a question that the book wasn't able to answer. How representative is it? The United States doesn't collect data on eviction. So I've started to. I run a team here at Princeton called the Eviction Lab, and we have over 100 million eviction records from around the country. So what have we learned? You know, we've learned that 3.7 million evictions are filed every single year in America. That's about 7 evictions filed a minute. We learned that the eviction rate in Milwaukee isn't even in the top 50 of the highest evicting cities in the country. Places like Richmond, Virginia, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Albuquerque, New Mexico have much higher eviction rates than I saw in Milwaukee. And this isn't just a big city problem. It's not just a coastal problem. This is a national problem, but it's one that disproportionately affects poor communities of color. So Arlene went to eviction court, and as is court custom in Milwaukee, she got to stay 2 extra days for each of her 2 kids. And those days came and went, and she was ordered to be out on a day in early January. Milwaukee is extremely cold in early January, and the weatherman said it could drop below 40 with the wind chill that day she had to be out. But if she waited any longer, the sheriff would come, and with a team of movers and a gun, and he would have ordered her out, and the movers would have piled everything she had on the sidewalk, and they take everything, like the meat cuts in the freezer, the shower curtain, Jafar's asthma machine. So she struck out into the cold. She endured a bout of homelessness, and the boys were once again on the hunt for another place to live. And so Arlene called on 20 apartments, and then 40, and then 60, and then 80. I counted. Even in the poorest neighborhoods, many of those homes were out of reach, and the place she could afford, she basically threw everything she had at the rent, weren't calling back either. And part of the reason, besides her poverty, was her eviction record. So an eviction record follows you around, and when landlords see that, many of them say no. That's a sign of risk. So finally, the 90th landlord, Mr. 90, said yes. He had a 1-bedroom apartment. It was $525. Arlene didn't consider what it looked like inside, what the neighborhood was like. She told Jory, look, a house is a house. So they moved in 2 months after their eviction. They settled in. Jory started a new school. He's 14. You remember what it's like to be 14? It's crazy. It's hard. So Jory's 14. He's experiencing these long bouts of homelessness. Between 7th and 8th grade, he goes to 5 different schools. And at his new school, he starts acting out. And one day, a teacher gets really frustrated, and she yells at him. And Jory gets really embarrassed, and he responds in kind. He kicks her in the leg, and he runs home. And the teacher called the principal, but then she thought it was appropriate to call the police. And when officers visited Arlene and the boys at their new place, and the landlord found out about that visit, he told her she couldn't stay. She had to go. You know, kids are a big part of this story. They can prolong the time you're homeless after you're evicted. They sometimes are the reason you get evicted in the first place. I did a study where we surveyed people in eviction court because we were trying to figure out, why does this person get evicted and this person doesn't, even though they owe the landlord the same amount of money? And what made the difference? It wasn't race or gender. It wasn't even how much you owed. It was kids. Chances of you get evicted triple, all else equal, if you live with kids. And what you're seeing in that finding is landlord discretion. You're seeing some landlords say, I'll work with you, but not with you. So after that eviction, Arlene started to unravel a bit, to be honest with you. You know, she told me, it's like I got a curse on me. It won't stop for nothing. Sometimes I find my body trembling or shaking. I'm tired, but I can't sleep. I'm fixing to have a nervous breakdown. I read a study a few years ago that showed that moms that get evicted experience high rates of depression 2 years later. It sticks with you. Between 2005 and 2010, times where housing costs were soaring all across the country, something else was going up too, which were suicides attributed to eviction. They doubled during that time. Arlene told me, just my soul is messed up. I wish my life were different. I wish that when I'm an old lady, I can sit back and be with my kids and they'll be grown and they'll become something. And we'll all be together and be laughing. We'll be remembering stuff like this and be laughing at it. I mean, what I learned in Milwaukee was the home is the center of life. It's our refuge from school, the pressure of work. At home, we can be ourselves. In languages all over the world, the word for home encompasses not just shelter, but warmth, community, the womb. In ancient Egypt, the hieroglyph for home is the same one for mother. But eviction destroys the home. It causes loss. It pushes families deeper into desperation. It causes kids to become homeless, lose their school, lose their neighborhoods. We have studies that show that eviction causes job loss because it's such a stressful, unending event. It causes mistakes at work. You lose your footing in the labor market. And there's the effect that eviction has on your soul, your mental health. And I think when we add all this up, we have to conclude that eviction, which used to be rare in this country and draw crowds, isn't just a condition of poverty. It's a cause of poverty too. It's making things worse. And it's leaving a deep and jagged scar in the next generation. And this is why your work is so important. This is why 35 years of investing in stable, permanent, affordable housing for 2,000 people in the Seattle area is life-changing. This is why Habitat's mission has to go on. It has to get deeper because the need is getting deeper. You know, without stable shelter, everything else falls apart. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you for investing in families and investing in homes. And please keep up the good work. Thank you.
Well, Matthew, thanks so much. Such powerful insight into one family story. Thank you for sharing that story and the challenges so many people are facing today. We're simply trying to work, trying to live and be a productive community member, and making it so clear how much work we still need to do. We really appreciate Matthew being with us today. Fortunate to have you join us, and we hope Arlene and her boys are doing well right now. Now you're going to hear from others you might recognize on the importance of home, followed by our Habitat partner family, Emily Gardner, who just a few days ago moved into her Habitat home.
Hi, I'm King County Executive Dow Constantine, and I want to congratulate Habitat for Humanity on 35 years of serving the people of King County. Over the last year, many of us have spent a lot more time than usual in our homes. But the pandemic has shown just how important having a home is to the health and well-being of everyone in our community. Your work and partnerships with so many across King County will help us ensure everyone in our community has a place to call home. Congratulations on 35 years, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, and I'm proud to represent Washington's 7th Congressional District in the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for inviting me to share a few words as you celebrate this exciting milestone. Congratulations to Habitat for Humanity, Seattle, King County, on your 35th anniversary. Your work has always made a substantial difference in our community, and I'm beyond grateful to all of your staff, volunteers, and contributors who make it all possible. In the midst of this pandemic, home has never been a more important place. But here's a truth we all know. Our housing affordability and housing insecurity crisis didn't start during the pandemic, and it could get even worse after the pandemic if eviction moratoriums and rental assistance expire. This is particularly true right here in Washington State, where we saw one of the biggest increases in people experiencing homelessness in the country between 2019 and 2020. And it's why I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for volunteering, donating, and advocating to give so many people in our community a place to call home. Following your lead on the ground in our community, I am convinced that we could create an America where everyone has a roof over their head. I will be working alongside you every step of the way. Congratulations again on 35 years of life-changing work.
Hi, I'm Jordan Babineaux, Seahawks legend, speaker, entrepreneur, and author of Pivot to Win. I'm extremely grateful to own a home, especially during these tough times. I believe that everyone deserves a home. Home is a safe place. It gives us that sense of humanity, that sense of dignity. A place where we can establish and create our own family traditions and raise our kids. Our donations go a long way. It allows Habitat for Humanity to establish the relationships with contractors and builders, connect directly with the families, and they give families a sense of home. Again, thanks for your donations, time, and awareness. And congratulations to Habitat for Humanity for celebrating 35 years of providing affordable homes for low-income, hard-working families.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor and a bit scary to be here today to share my story with you, the people who have made such a life-changing difference for my family through your support for Habitat for Humanity. I'm Emily Gardner, and on behalf of the Gardner-Drescher family, I want to say thank you. I'm very proud and very grateful to be speaking to you as a first-time home buyer. We just moved into our Habitat home last weekend. For the past several years, my two sons and I have been living in a 2-bedroom apartment in an urban neighborhood of Seattle. While I have been lucky to have kept my job during the pandemic, the optical clinic where I work is situated downtown and so has seen a significant drop in number of patients. My hours have been reduced, and my rent and other necessary living expenses have taken all I have, and it's been extremely challenging to build on my savings. Additionally, the area in which we were living was becoming increasingly unsafe, and my sons, ages 15 and 13, were becoming more and more uncomfortable, even walking outside by themselves. As you can imagine, this troubled me deeply, as we all need our children to feel safe. I knew I needed to figure out another living situation. And so I thought perhaps I might be able to afford a small condo outside of the city. It was so exciting to think that I might be able to just barely afford something a little better for my family. But once I got deeper into the conventional housing market, I realized that people were expected to waive contingencies and compete with all cash buyers. I watched as every possible home within my limited budget drifted out of reach. And what was possible for me was very clearly not advisable. Rundown condos with high HOA fees would just sink us into debt. I did everything I could think of to uncover alternative routes to home ownership. I knew my kids needed better and that I was the only one who could give that to them. When I discovered Habitat, I was almost out of hope. As I learned more about the process with Habitat, I became cautiously optimistic, even though I knew that there was every chance in this pandemic year I might lose my job, or circumstances could just simply collapse, as the Habitat application and financing process takes several months to complete. Having only one income to report was a big part of the challenge. The Habitat staff worked diligently with me to sort through all the paperwork, helped me make our dream a reality, and it was not easy. I have spent 30 hours each of the past few months working construction on our home and in the Habitat store in Bellevue and other homes as well, just to complete my sweat equity hours. But now we're in this amazing refurbished home in West Seattle, and so all the hard work was worth it. The volunteers taught me so much and throughout the process showed such kindness. I helped them install the flooring and the cabinets, plant the garden. I've just been so moved by so many people who, even during a pandemic, just kept coming out. Working side by side with these folks has kept me connected to humanity. And 3 days ago, I closed on a home that I can actually afford. And now I'm building equity that will serve me and my sons in the future. Although as a single mom, getting my financing approved and putting in all the sweat equity hours by myself was difficult. I am proud that I persevered. I truly found it a transforming and miraculous process. That feeling is very rare these days. I plan to continue to volunteer for Habitat now that I know firsthand just what it means. I can't wait to be a part of helping others find security and stability, which my family now has.
I love my room. I can't wait to put a poster here, put my books over here, put my bed over here, my desk over here, another poster even. I'm just so excited. Welcome to my room. This is where I'm going to put my bed. This is where I'm going to put my desk. I'm going to put my chair so I can sit down on my desk and do schoolwork. Thank you very much.
The first few days in our home have been unbelievable. Working in our garden, seeing my sons being able to play outside in our fenced yard with our dogs, have their own space. Simple things that are perhaps taken for granted by many, but I can assure you, we will never take these things for granted, and I will treasure this opportunity. I want to thank you, all of you, who have made this possible for us. I'll never be able to express how grateful I am. It has truly been an extraordinary journey, and I hope today you will consider helping other deserving families start on their own journeys as well. Thank you.
So wonderful to hear these words of encouragement. And Emily, congratulations to you on purchasing your new home there. It is absolutely beautiful. You personify the amazing qualities and tenacity of Habitat's partnering. Now the reason we're all here today. You're about to hear from someone you might remember from our 2019 event and learn about the impact your support provides to people living in your communities, your neighbors. Please join me in welcoming back Jacques Kayembe, a proud Habitat homeowner.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today. I am Jacques Kayembe, and I'm speaking to you from my home in Pacific, Washington. I'm very proud and very grateful Habitat homeowner. Some of you may remember that I shared my story in 2019 at the Beyond to Build event, and I'm excited again to join those who have made such life-changing difference from my family through their support for Habitat for Humanity. Things have changed quite a bit since I spoke in 2019. I have received a master's degree in public health from the University of Washington, and I'm now working as a program manager for the King County Department of Public Health, supporting the COVID-19 response. Before connecting with Habitat, my wife and 6 children and I lived in 2-bedroom apartment, 8 people sharing a small space and just 1 bathroom. While we appreciate the opportunity that Americans have given us after immigrating from the Democratic Republic of Congo, until we found Habitat, it's been a very difficult journey. When I arrived here in Seattle as a trained physician, I couldn't find a job, given in Congo we speak French, and never learned to speak English. In the United States, you cannot practice medicine if you don't speak the language. I couldn't be a doctor, and employers told me I was overqualified for other jobs. After joining the U.S. Army to serve my adopted country and learn new skills, I worked as an interpreter and then trained as a nursing assistant so I could maintain a connection to my medical field. I then enrolled in Master of Public Health program at the University of Washington. I attended school all day and then worked from 6 p.m. until midnight as an interpreter, and also worked 12-hour shift on the weekend as a nursing assistant at Swedish. Our living situation made life even more stressful, especially given now we had teenagers who needed space, and we faced roadblocks everywhere we turned for help with affordable housing. Then, a colleague at work told me about Habitat for Humanity. Just before Christmas 2018, we signed the papers and moved in. It was the happiest day of my life since I moved in this country. So, you see, with hard work, dreams do come true, but not without the support of people like you. I'm happy to share and celebrate my accomplishment with you, but we are here also to fund Habitat's mission. This is your opportunity to make an impact on permanently affordable housing. We only have one event each year and need your support. When I think about the past year and how many people have lost their job and can't pay the rent or mortgage, I wonder what our life will be if we're not lucky enough to be in a Habitat home with an affordable mortgage. So many people I know we're not so fortunate, but we can change that. This year, you have 3 ways to provide your support. First, text B2B 2021 to 71777 or go to the website www.habitatlunch.org, or you can mail a check to Habitat's office. Remember, every donation of $250 or more will be matched thanks to the generosity of our Challenge Match donors. That means your gift of $250 becomes $500, $500 become $1,000, and on and on. So please consider making extra big donation so you can double your impact. Your contributions are 100% tax deductible. And don't forget to apply for your company match if available. Thanks to the support of our sponsors, every dollar you donate will go directly toward building the 200 homes currently planned, facilitating thousands of repairs, and thus strengthening community and giving hope for family in need like mine. Hardworking and deserving families will be able to own their own home and build a better future for their children because of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Habitat!
And thank you, Jean-Jacques. We are so happy to see you and your family doing well, and thank you for your service. Now it is your turn to do something great as you consider your donation, hopefully inspired by Jean-Jacques, Emily, and the other amazing stories that you've heard today. Perhaps add a 0 or maybe 2 the amount you initially thought you might give today. Remember that every dollar you donate here today goes directly to support Habitat homeowners, because our generous corporate partners have covered all the costs of today's event. Don't forget that every gift you make of $250 or more will be matched up to a total of $135,000. You know, how often do we get the chance to actually double an investment the moment we make it? Please go online right now or text to give or write your check right now. And while you're doing that, hear firsthand from those impacted the most, Habitat's partner family kids, on what their home means to them.
My name is Elijah and I'm 5. My name is Nadia. Hi, my name is Walid and I like to play soccer. And my favorite place in our house is the backyard.
Hi, my name is Rashad Fazil and I'm in 5th grade. I'm 11 years old.
Hello, my name is Tommy. I'm 14. I'm in the 9th grade. What I love about my new house is that this house is clean. It gives us a fresh start. And now we can have full ownership over this house.
This house has helped our family with rent, and we have much more space than we actually had in our usual apartment. And we feel free in this house. It's pretty big for us.
Before, when I lived in an apartment, I couldn't have all of these stuff.
We have a lot of space to play in our backyard.
What I love about this new room is it's way bigger, gives us space for 2 beds. Before, I used to do my Zoom meetings on my bed with my cameras off, but now I have a chair and a desk where I can put my laptop and I can turn my cameras on and participate in class.
Thank you for my Habitat home.
Thank you for my Habitat house.
Thank you for my house, Nadia.
I'd like to thank all the donors for helping us own this home. I really appreciate what you guys have done for us and for this family.
And thank you for sharing your stories with us today. It's so great to see you doing so well. As we conclude our virtual experience today, we want to emphasize the biggest stars of the day are each and every one of you. We really appreciate it. Tell others about why you've chosen to support this extraordinary organization. Donate to or shop at a Habitat store. Consider getting more involved as a Habitat volunteer. Come out and help us on a build site. It is a lot of fun, and you might learn a thing or two about building in the process. Advocate by supporting affordable housing legislation. Remember, you are investing in your community when you engage with Habitat. And one star will shine just a little bit brighter today as the winner of the Delta Airlines tickets. And here we go. The winner is Megara Potts. Congratulations, Megara. Habitat will be in touch with you with the details. Enjoy your trip wherever you want to go. Thank you for being here to support Habitat for Humanity and for your generosity today. And please keep the momentum going. We greatly appreciate it. We hope to see you out there on one of our build sites sometime soon. Have a great rest of your day.